Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Madison. My name is Kelly Aspruz Jackson, and I am one of the ministers here. Today, I am joined by my colleague, the Reverend Kelly Crocker, and by the worship team of Linda Warren, Heather Thorpe, Drew Collins, Daniel Carnes, and Stephen Gregorius. The vision of FUS is growing souls, connecting with one another, and embodying our UU values in our lives, our community, and in our world. We are so glad to be able to connect with you virtually today, and we hope you will be able to join us for our virtual coffee hour immediately following our service. The information for joining can be found on the homepage of our website, fusmadison.org, as well as on the slide that will be seen again after the postlude. Our announcement slides will also be shown briefly after today's service, and we encourage you to take a moment and learn about upcoming programs and activities. One such upcoming activity is our Valentine Jazz Soiree, taking place in just under 2 weeks on Saturday, February 12th. This at-home meal and music event is an opportunity to celebrate with yourself, your special someone, or even host your own gathering with other FUS folks. Register by this Wednesday, February 2nd, to reserve the meal and dessert kits of your choice. You'll be able to pick those kits up on Saturday the 12th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. here at FUS. Isthmus Eats, the local company we're partnering with for this event, already has a delivery system set up with Oakwood West, so there'll be a special delivery option for folks who live there that same day. That evening, as you make the lovely meal you chose, Reverend Kelly Crocker and her son Sam will be hosting a special live cooking performance, making one of those delicious desserts for your education and entertainment over Zoom. In addition to this special pilot episode of the FUS Cooking Show, the evening's highlights also include a special jazz performance. And to tell you more about that and why you should be excited for it, here's our director of music, Drew Collins.
This year's Valentine's Jazz Soiree will feature a piano, bass, and drums trio put together by our featured performer and FUS member, Michael Beebe. You can tailor your Valentine Jazz Soiree to suit your plans that weekend. You can purchase just the meal kit or just the concert or both. When you purchase your Jazz Soiree package, the link to the jazz video will be provided to you in an email. The music can either serve as background music for cooking or dining, but since it will be concert quality, you could also opt to give the music your full attention. The music will be pre-recorded in one of our gorgeous sanctuaries, so it will be visually beautiful as well. I hope you will join us for a night of great food and great jazz.
Thank you, Drew. And now, I invite you to join me in a moment of silence to center ourselves and bring ourselves fully into this time as we join together once again in community.
Come in, come home. Bring all that you are to this time set apart. Blessings and burdens, joys and sorrows, laughter and tears.
Come in, come home. Rest a while in this sweet place of covenant, comfort, and care. Lay each burden and sorrow upon our shoulders of strength and support. Place your tears in these walls of stone, worn smooth by love and the passage of time.
Come in, come home, settle into this house painted with wonder, tinted with awe, and bound by covenant. Breathe in the joy of community and relationship. Delight in the laughter of children. Let your spirit be refreshed and renewed. This is your sanctuary. This is your haven. This is your home.
Come in and know this. We have been waiting for you.
And I invite you now to join in the words of affirmation on your screen as we light our chalice. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Bright morning stars are rising, day is a-breaking in my soul. Let's sing together hymn number 323, Break Not the Circle. Break not the circle of an neighboring love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it white as sin, till it includes and embraces all the living. Come wonder at His love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but will their human bonds remain unbroken. Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves and on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation.
So, Kelly, I had the strangest experience a little while back, and I wonder if you've ever had anything like this. I was visiting a friend and her mother, and we had this lovely visit. It had tea and snacks. It was a lovely, wonderful time. And then we got in the car, and my friend started complaining about everything that had bothered her that morning. And she was really upset, and all I could think was, we were in the same space, having what I thought was the same experience, yet we saw it completely differently.
You know, I can think of an example like that. When I was growing up, my family took a trip, and I remember it very fondly. I remember all the details well, I think. But if you heard me tell the story of that trip, or you heard my brother tell the story, you'd think we went to two different places with two different families.
Oh, it's fascinating. That's what our story is about today. This very thing. 4 people in a shared space at the same time, seeing things very differently. This is called Voices in the Park.
It was time to take Victoria, our pedigree Labrador, and Charles, our son, for a walk. When we arrived at the park, I let Victoria off her lead. Immediately, some scruffy mongrel appeared and started bothering her. I shooed it off, but the horrible thing chased her all over the park. I ordered it to go away, but it took no notice of me whatsoever. "Sit," I said to Charles. Here. I was just planning what we should have to eat that evening when I saw Charles had disappeared. Oh dear, where had he gone? You get some frightful types in the park these days. I called his name for what seemed like an age. Then I saw him talking to a very rough-looking child. Charles, come here at once, I said. And come here, please, Victoria. We walked home in silence.
I needed to get out of the house, and so me and Smudge took the dog to the park. He loves it there. I wish I had half the energy he's got. I settled on a bench and looked through the paper for a job. I know it's a waste of time, really, but you gotta have a bit of hope, haven't you? Then it was time to go. Smudge cheered me up. She chatted happily to me all the way home.
I was at home, on my own again. It's so boring. Then Mummy said it was time for our walk. There was a very friendly dog in the park, and Victoria was having a great time. I wished I was. "Do you want to come on the slide?" a voice asked. It was a girl, unfortunately, but I went anyway. She was brilliant on the slide. She was really fast. I was amazed. The two dogs raced around like old friends. The girl took off her coat and swung on the climbing frame, so I did the same. I'm good at climbing trees, so I showed her how to do it. She told me her name was Smudge. A funny name, I know, but she's quite nice. Then Mummy caught us talking together, and I had to go home. Maybe Smudge will be there next time.
Dad had been really fed up, so I was pleased when he said we could take Albert to the park. Albert's always in such a hurry to be let off his lead. He went straight up to this lovely dog and sniffed its bum. He always does that. Of course, the other dog didn't mind, but its owner was really angry. How silly. I got talking to this boy. I thought he was a bit of a fraidy cat at first, but he's okay. We played on the seesaw, and he didn't say much, but later on, he was a bit more friendly. We both burst out laughing when we saw Albert having a swim. Then we all played on the bandstand, and I felt really, really happy. Charlie picked a flower and gave it to me. Then his mom called, and he had to go. He looked sad. When I got home, I put the flower in some water and made Dad a nice cup of tea. I really appreciate this story, as it reminds me that here we all are together in shared space, in community, and all of us are having our own experience of it, which can be a great joy and a blessing if we remember that our way of seeing is one way, and that others are here with us seeing too.
I invite you now into a time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering which sustains our community here and also supports the work of our outreach offering recipient. This week's offering will be shared with the Community Immigration Law Center. The CILC is a 501c3 nonprofit sponsored by a coalition of legal, social, and faith-based organizations wanting to contribute to the community and to address the unmet legal needs of immigrants in Madison and surrounding areas. FUS has partnered with CILC in providing training and volunteer opportunities as founding members of the Dane Sanctuary Coalition. You will see on your screen that you can donate directly from our website, fusmadison.org. You will see our text to give information there as well. We thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we create together.
In last week's reflections on who we are when nobody's watching, Reverend Kelly A.J. quoted the Unitarian teacher and theologian James Luther Adams as saying, "Church is a place where you get to practice what it means to be human." That line has stuck with me all week. A simple yet evocative description of community that conveys a deep acceptance and an acknowledgement that we are practicing this thing called life together. In that simple statement, I find a reassurance that however difficult or confounding it is to be alive in this moment, we know somewhere inside us what it means to be human. And that knowledge and the sacred gift of being able to have a space to practice it with others, well, that makes all the difference. I did a little searching this week about the quote, trying to find where it comes from, if it was part of a larger work, and I had no luck. What else James Luther Adams may have meant, how he would have described what this practice looks like, we cannot say. These words appear to stand alone and are left open to our own interpretation. Perhaps we are left with the question, how do we understand what it means to be human, and how does coming together here help us practice it? It just happened this week as I was pulling a book off a shelf that a bookmark fell out onto the floor. It was a bookmark I have not seen in a very long time, given to me by a seminary professor with a quote from the author and poet Ted Loder. I think in some ways this poem could be my professor's answer about what it means to be human. These are the words of Ted Loder that were printed on the bookmark. "Empower me to be a bold participant rather than a timid saint in waiting in the difficult ordinariness of now. To exercise the authority of honesty rather than defer to power or deceive to get it. To influence someone for justice rather than impress anyone for gain. And by grace, to find treasures of joy, of friendship, of peace, hidden in the fields of the daily you give me to plow. To be a bold participant in the difficult ordinariness of now. I think that line jumped off the bookmark at me because isn't it true that so much of what makes us human, so much of our practice at this art of building a life happens in the very ordinary moments of it all? Yes, we may long for the grand mountaintop moments of expansive beauty and overwhelming wonder. Yet it is in the very daily living, the moment-to-moment experiences in which our understanding of human life and our place in it forms. The author Ernest Becker wrote, "Who knows what form the forward momentum of life will take in the time ahead, or what use it will make of our anguished searching? The most that any of us can seem to do is fashion something, an object or ourselves, and drop it into the confusion, make an offering of it, so to speak, to the life force." What it means to be human for Becker is to be here in the confusion and to make something of this life we have been given. To do so is to express a belief that our being here matters. It makes a difference. That what we drop will ripple out in ways perhaps unknown to us. What it means to be human, in Becker's view, is to make meaning where there may be none. If church is where we get to practice what it means to be human, then what we are practicing is meaning making, a creative and sometimes heroic task in a world that often makes no sense. I think there may be no more fitting an image for the ordinariness of life and our struggle to find meaning in our days than the table. If you participated in our ministerial search week last spring, then you might have heard Kelly and I discuss our thinking around co-ministry, what grounds us in this work we share and this structure we're building together. My image was a table. It is how I view our life here in community. It is somewhat of a magical table because it is always expanding. There is always room for more. You just need to pull up another chair. In this image, we are all at the table, sharing our experiences, our triumphs and our failures, our joy and our pain, and we are held in a deep and felt sense of belonging. All are welcome here, exactly as they are, to pull up a chair and join us as we practice this being human together. The poet Naomi Shihab Nye has a poem called "The Comfort of Wood," and I think it beautifully holds this imagery of the table. I come to this table tired. I come empty as a cup, a fruit bowl with no bananas. I come with my varied resources dragging behind me a cat's wet tail. I come to this table with no song, no definite opinion like garlic or onion flavoring the stew. The table is sitting where it always sits, braided placemats in front of each chair. I found the table at a store called The Hand and the Heart. I was not looking for tables. The table sat in the center of the room, leaves like wings folded out at its sides, a single drawer with a runner that stuck. Now I am learning the comfort of wood as I place my head on the table, as I fold my hands over the scars. We come to this table here, at times tired and empty, feeling as if we have nothing left to give. We come with no opinions and no songs And sometimes we need to just put our head on this table and rest. This is the practice of being human, and it requires curiosity and courage, support and challenge, a willingness to trust, and a framework to hold us together as we practice, as we make mistakes and try again, as we lose any sense of meaning making and we look to others to help us make sense of our days and find what we have to offer once again. In our Unitarian Universalist congregations, this framework comes in the form of our covenants. Our interim minister, Roger Birchhausen, introduced the idea of a relational covenant last fall, saying a covenant is a set of sacred promises members make to one another. A covenant between members in a congregation articulates how people in that congregation aspire to interact with one another. It is not just in our congregations that we make covenants. We human beings make promises to one another all the time. We are promise-making creatures. We make covenants as partners in committed relationships, and we make oftentimes unspoken covenants with our dearest of friends. They are lived out in the difficult ordinariness of our days, in how we show up for one another, how we stay open to another, how we return to another, even when it is so very hard. It takes courage to create covenants because covenants ask us to change how we see things and to maybe, just maybe, be open to seeing things in a different way. Covenants are not lived out as yes and no, but more like yes and. Our world gives us false binaries all the time. Good and bad, yes or no, friend or foe. Covenants ask us to open our field of vision wider, to look for possibility, to attempt in as limited a way as we can to see things from another perspective, to say yes and this too. It is to try and do what we saw in our message, Voices in the Park, to not only look at our singular perspective on a situation, but to see the views and hear the voices of others as well. It takes courage to covenant, especially as we know when they are broken. Covenant audaciously says, come back anyway. Trust anyway. Pull up a chair to this table we share anyway. We will make room for you anyway. When Roger was discussing covenant with us almost 15 months ago, it was to introduce the idea of a relational covenant for us here at FUS. A team was created who met with many of you in small groups to discuss how we want to be together, how we want to practice being human together here. And now our relational covenant is a reality approved by you at our June parish meeting. It is on our website if you haven't read it yet, and it is a beautiful statement about our vision for shared life. I think my favorite line from the covenant is, we seek to create a brave space. A space to celebrate each person's unique abilities, a space to grow and build a bond between ourselves and each other, a joyful and compassionate space. Isn't that an incredible sentence? I'm grateful to the writers of this covenant, the multi-generational team of Ann Schaefer and Ava Rochester, for using the term brave space. Brave space, where we call each other to more truth and love, where we are willing to examine what we think we know, become open to hearing from others with the possibility that we can change our minds and even perhaps change ourselves. It is not easy space. It is not comfortable space. It is not even a space where I can promise you that you will not be disappointed, but it will be space where we can share our common humanity, where we can talk about things that matter, when we can look around our table and see who is there and who is not, and ask ourselves and each other, why? Brave space requires courage, and it requires vulnerability. When I was thinking about this space, the other image that kept coming into my mind was that of a buddy bench. Many of you know that one of my other roles away from you is that of the PTO president of our elementary school. I love everything about this role, and I greatly appreciate the conversations I'm able to have with our teachers and our staff because of it. A few years ago, our principal came to us with a funding request for a buddy bench. If you aren't familiar with the concept, the buddy bench is where you can go on the playground if you don't have anyone to play with. You sit on the bench, and the others see you, and they come over and invite you to play. I'll admit that I was very skeptical at first because I questioned the amount of vulnerability and courage it would take for a child to do this. In the first week that it was installed, my own child reported kids sitting there at every recess and kids finding them there and welcoming them into their games every single time. I remember him saying, "It's cool, Mom. It might be scary to admit that you need someone to play with, but we're all there together, so it just seems to work." You have to display a lot of vulnerability and courage on a school playground to admit that you are alone and in need of a friend. I would call that brave space. And yet kids do it all the time, and it works. Our relational covenant calls us into brave, joyful, and compassionate space. That is a beautiful aspiration, and we are all in it together. And I think it can most definitely work. When it doesn't, when issues arise, when we need to call one another back into covenant, there is a team to help us do exactly that. The Healthy Congregation team is committed to helping us remain a community that is grounded in direct, honest, and caring communication in an atmosphere of trust and respect. They, along with our Board of Trustees, are currently receiving training in conflict mediation and transformation, and the team will be offering opportunities in the future to share this information with you. You will see the team on your screen, and you will be hearing more from them in the months ahead. Some of them will be with us today at coffee hour to answer your questions about the covenant or about the team and their work. We invite you to join us. Church is where we get to practice what it means to be human. If we can figure this out here in our small corner of the world, how to be brave and vulnerable, how to pull up another chair to the table, how to sit on the buddy bench, we may have found one way to make something of ourselves and what we have been given and shape it like a work of art into something we believe in. And I do believe it will be something beautiful. May we be brave enough to make it so.
Each week we gather, bringing with us the hurts and hopes of recent days. We share these cares here in community, knowing they are held in love. We light a candle for Roz Woodward in celebration of her birthday this past week on January 26th. Roz, you are loved and respected by so many. May the year ahead be a happy and a healthy one. We light a candle, too, for Lori Newman and Jim and Leah Sinclair, who share with sadness that Leah's supported apartment is no longer able to support her, and she will have to move. Any ideas for supportive living situations in Dane County are very welcome and appreciated. We also light a candle of memory for International Holocaust Remembrance Day this past Thursday, the 77th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp. We hold before us the memory of the 6 million Jews, the 500,000 Romani, and the hundreds of thousands of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and gender nonconforming folks, people with disabilities, and political prisoners murdered at industrial scale in the name of power and purity. Let their memory be our common vow. Never again. And we light one last candle for all the joys and all the sorrows that we hold in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May we hold them all in love, in gratitude, and in hope.
There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding us. We rest in this love. Our closing hymn today is number 1018, Come and Go With Me to That Land.
Come and go with me to
that
that land.
Come and go with me
to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound.
There'll be freedom in that land.
There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound.
There'll be singing in that land.
There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. Oh, there'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. Let peace reside in your heart. Let grace be spread in the world by your caring touch. Let love spill from your mouth whenever you speak. Move from this space, carrying the blessings and responsibilities of living in community with you. And remember, you are never, ever on this journey alone. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.